Hey everybody, Mr. C here. The Everquest 2 Origin server, and boy, do I have some things to say about it. For those of you who don't know, Darkpaw aka Daybreak recently released the Origin server aka the Nathi Soul server, which is a timed locked expansion, progression, time lock something. With the server being the closest thing to 2006 Everquest 2 that you can currently play. With stats back to normal, these are what they look like on live, barf. Content geared more towards slower leveling and grouping more, and no tradable chrono on this server, among other things. Now, I was really excited for this because the original launch of Everquest 2 was probably the peak of Everquest 2 for a lot of people, and me included. Now, there's probably some people who are like, wait, I didn't know about this server. And yeah, the announcement of this server was probably the worst I've ever seen.
It's been happening over the past several months is the beta that's going on for the next Everquest 2 server that's going to be launching. Do you have any information on that for us?
Well, I'm pleased to announce Everquest 2's Origin server and Nasty Soul will go live next Wednesday. June 19th at noon.
So these guys here, they've been waiting for the server. So you guys can't see them here, but they are definitely waiting for it. Of course, one of the things that we really want to hear, is all the players want to hear, is what's going to happen with expansion releases for later in the year for both Everquest and Everquest 2.
Yeah, this had the same pompous of a local Denny's opening up. And on top of that, this announcement gave us a whopping 4 days notice. Now, some people out there might be like, but Mr. C, isn't it coming out soon good? As Drax says, you only get one release. It's a special time, and it's the most popular it's probably ever going to be during that release. Hype needs to build. People need to prepare. People need to bribe their significant others, take days off of work, and the more people looking forward to the release, the more word of mouth will go around, leading towards the more people playing it. Level 2 friend. That's so many instances. 47, holy crap. More so, this announcement really pissed me off because I was only a third of the way through my betrayal guide, and I had to work overtime to finish it because the release was when the people were going to need that video the most. I mean, if the original World of Warcraft Classic release only had a 4-day notice instead of 3 months, would it have been the huge event that it turned out to be? No. Now, a lot of people are saying that this was intentional, that the servers couldn't handle an actual release, and the queues would have been massive, which may be true, but man, it's such a cop-out. Hey, little Timmy, can you actually put your science fair project on a display board instead of just some loose papers on the desk? No! Now, while the launch of the Origin server was big, I feel like it could have been bigger, as there were both veterans of Everquest 2 and players who never got the chance to play Everquest 2 back in the day, to see it back in its best form. But due to how it was launched, there will probably be people years from now who will see this and say, oh man, I would have totally played this at launch if I knew about it. Speaking of launch, there's another thing Daybreak did that really put a bee in my bonnet. So the cash out was supposed to be very limited. To Daybreak's credit, there were no level boosts, no chrono, or currency token, no gear cosmetics, and EXP pots only went up to a 10% bonus. Now, normally, if you look at the in-game store, you can only buy a 24% speed mount that requires level 15 to use, which is fine for the most part, and if I had any say, there wouldn't be any mounts you could buy in the cash shop, but I'm okay with it, whatever. However, day one of Origin server, they release a $30 Origin pack, and in that pack includes a 30-slot bag, which there's only one 30-slot bag in the game right now, and a mount you can use at level 1. Oh, but this isn't any mount. This mount has a speed of 32%, which is only 2% slower than my level 41 Bard speed, which is the fastest constant speed buff in the game. Because you're really gonna need that speed on Tutorial Island. And the entire server is using this mount, because why wouldn't you? Which just makes everyone look like they're a part of the big $30 mount parade. How fitting. And it doesn't even stop there, because recently they've gone full mask off. Now they added 20 slot bags you can buy straight from the cash shop. Oh, hey, you know Fumbi's Stolen Goods, that heritage quest that requires you to do quests and shit and group up and get a 20 slot bag? Fuck it, just buy them. Hey, traveling a long distance? Fuck it, just buy them out. Why should you ever group with a bard anyways? You know what? Just fuck it. Add a level boost when Desert of Flame launches. I fucking dare you. You're gonna look at your data and say, wow, not many players have gone through the long grind to hit 50 and probably just do it anyways, in which case I'll say, I fucking told you so. Sorry, cash shop stuff gets me all riled up, and we're not even at the worst part yet. Endgame content and loot. Imagine, if you will, Onyxia from WoW. You kill her once a week, you get 4 to 6 items that will often get used by the majority of the raid, some of its armor. Sometimes if you're lucky, you get a weapon, and there's even a quest item that gives loot. Now, look at this. This is a 24 player raid, and man, look at this. A treasure dagger and 3 crafting materials, which is as good as this weapon on the broker for a little less than 2 gold, which is not much. If you don't play EverQuest 2, this would be the equivalent of Onyxia in WoW, dropping 1 green item and some rare crafting crap and nothing else. Also, yes, raid bosses can drop wooden chests, if you're wondering. So you'll often have an entire raiding night where you kill 4 to 6 bosses, and typically, if you're lucky, you'll get a couple master spells, 2 to 4 fabled items, and if you're really lucky, maybe one of those fabled items being something that people actually want. Now, I don't know whether the server itself has the loot broken, or if that's just the way it was back then, but at the end of the day, it's just not fun. And you're not really progressing as a raid. In the month or so I've been raiding and not including prismatic quest weapons, I think I've seen maybe 5, maybe 10 total pieces of gear that I've gotten to people that I've actually wanted it. And yeah, Mastercraft gear this and Mastercraft gear that, but Mastercraft gear should be a venue to get gear, not basically the only consistent way. Also, expert/master spells are way more important in my opinion. So, this is more or less the experience we're getting. Rumor on the street until February of 2025, which is when I think Deserts of Flame is dropping. So let me ask you this. Would you continue to do this for months on end? Kill raid boss after raid boss in the hopes you get a 1 in 100 drop for one of your 20 equipment slots? My answer is no. I thank my raiding guild for having me, and anyone who watched any of my EverQuest 2 content. But ultimately, I will be stepping away from EverQuest 2. Now, this won't be immediate, as I'm still playing EQ2 with Nathan, Steve, Gulu, and Dorgachu on Wednesdays, and honestly, we could have a great time playing anything.
Hey, sorry to wake you up, but this is really important. Mr. Cottleshard brought up a really good point that you just got to know right now. Orange soda, okay? You claim it's named orange soda because it's the color orange. I claim
now, Winter.
It's called orange because of the fruit, right? Just brought it up, and guess what? Mr. C said, do they call it grape soda or do they call it purple soda? Checkmate.
Checkmate!
Not orange flavor.
But once we eventually move on, I will probably never touch anything from Darkpaw/Daybreak ever again, based on just how this server was handled. Yes, not even EverQuest 3. Now I want to say, I don't hate the literal 2 developers working on the Origin server. They're probably working overtime, and I'm sure there are things they wish they could do, but simply can't, due to the manpower or the overarching company. And like I said in the intro, if you want to experience EverQuest 2, this is probably the best time to do it while there are still people playing it. It requires an all-access sub, and you have to click the top left in the launcher to bring up a menu and choose the Origin server. But I did enjoy my time with it, grouping with my friends, doing heritage quests, and more. As for the future of me and this channel, currently me and StaticGroupLive are trying to progress in Halner's Cave in Pantheon, but again, we'll eventually hit a point where we'll see the majority of the content and move on to something else. But for now, you might get a stream or 2 of Pantheon sprinkled in. As for other MMOs, in development or otherwise, I'm not interested in any PvP focused MMOs, so my options are kind of limited to what I assume is basically just Monsters and Memories whenever that comes out. I'd love to come back to Embers and go back into full motion, but again, new content, changes, and systems would have to be added for me to come back. So I might ultimately step away from MMOs altogether based on the landscape of things. So if you start seeing no MMO content and more regular RPG or other content, this is why. I'm also working on some side stuff like illiterate read reviews, and I'm sorry to all 3 ladies who subbed for more, but there's another video in the works, so hold your horses. Because they're good, strong men who aren't afraid of their feelings. But I will continue to stream, so don't worry about that. If you don't know, I stream on both YouTube and Twitch. YouTube on this channel, and Twitch on twitch.tv/Mr. Cottleshire, all one word, lowercase. As for my schedule will typically be Sundays at 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, and Tuesdays or Thursdays, usually around the same time, although I might be leaning more towards Tuesdays in the future. I'm also on a bunch of other people's channels right now. Currently, I'm on StaticGroupLive on Mondays for After Dark, and Fridays for Bros Before Foes, and also I'm on Nathan's channel on Wednesdays, which I mentioned earlier. But thanks everyone for watching, and whether or not I see you again, I hope you have a wonderful day regardless. Have a good one. Class skill changes in the Anathi Soul server? Sure, I'll click. Oh. This is all just for live. They don't even care about Origin servers anymore. There may be more players on Origins, but at the end of the day, they're not as profitable as the few people playing live.